Welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Powercast. I'm your host, N64 Josh. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at a handful of headlines, all Nintendo news, of course, and then we're going to be looking at the question: has Nintendo done enough with the Switch 2? Is it innovative enough? Because we've seen some articles online that apparently it's not. So we're going to jump into it, and I can't wait to hear from everybody live during the episode. Play the intro. All right. Well, we're going to let people roll in here as we just hit the go live button. And before we do, I again just want to remind you guys we've got Mario Kart streams happening Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Also, we have Kart Club on Sundays, which has been getting very, very sweaty and been a lot of fun. So if you want to come race with us, all you got to do is either be subscribed on TikTok or Twitch or a member on YouTube. That gets you into Kart Club, and it is a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. We're also playing a lot of Mario Party Jamboree. So if you want to get in on some of those games with us, just make sure to show up to the streams either on Tuesdays or Thursdays, and that is when we will be playing some Mario Party Jamboree. And before we jump into the news, I'm gonna give you guys a little update on my backlog. So I have been trying to 100% Super Mario Wonder. I'm also playing Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I want to jump into Torna. I also want to jump into 3 before X comes out, but I mean the time is ticking, right? Like I don't got a lot of time for that. But I've been wanting to finish up Super Mario Brothers Wonder and get it 100%. So I've done all the coins, I've done all the flags, I've done all the Wonder Seeds. Now I have to get the standees. So I don't have all the standees yet. And I realized I made a mistake while I was playing, and I did not spend my purple coins when I'd hit max. I would just let them sit there. And so because of that, I did not I have to now go back and grind. Thankfully, I've only got to do like I need like 13 more, 12 more. So not the end of the world, but it is going to be a bit of a grind. From my understanding, there's one more level left that's going to unlock the last badge. So that's what I'm working towards. I want to get 100% on Mario Wonder. For my recent video that I just put up talking all about Mario Kart 9 and what I think we might see from that game, I actually fired up Odyssey because of the costumes, and now I want 100% Odyssey as well. So I am I'm biting off more than I can chew, but I am definitely having a great time doing it. So we are going to jump into the news while people are still rolling in here. And again, just a reminder: if you're listening to this after the fact, we are doing this live at 3:30 Eastern. So I'm hoping to catch some people on lunch. Maybe you could put on YouTube at work or whatever, and you want to come hang out. 3:30 Eastern. We're actually starting things on time. I don't think people are used to that yet. So but this is happening Monday through Friday at 3:30 Eastern. Now, let's jump into the news. First up, we have Sega announces its online account service, Sega Account. This is from My Nintendo News. And it says, in a surprising move, Sega has announced today that it is launching its new online initiative, Sega Account. A Sega account, as the name suggests, will allow you to play Sega and Atlas games online and receive goodies like pre-order bonuses for Sega and Atlas games, etc. You can sign up now to get a special in-game bonus for the company's upcoming Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Sega has launched Sega Account, an online profile that gives you access to a host of benefits when playing Sega and Atlas titles and using their online services. By creating a Sega account, you'll receive the latest news about Sega and Atlas games, events, and promotions. Additionally, your Sega account grants you access to exclusive bonuses and the ability to link accounts on various gaming platforms. And then it just goes on to talk about the bonus for that current game right now. So, if you are a Sega fan, Sonic fan, Atlas fan, make sure to go and do this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sign up for it. I mean, I'm literally just learning about it today, but I'm gonna go and sign up and see what kind of bonuses. And again, It is definitely it's marketing material, right? So that you stay top of the list on what Sega's got going on, what they're gonna be announcing, what they're gonna be releasing. But if you can get some cool in-game items and it doesn't cost anything to do it. So if you are a Sega fan, I would suggest going and signing up for this. Now this is kind of interesting. This is just a random article from Nintendo Life, but it has to do with Astrobot and it has to do with Reggie. It says Astrobot almost outdid Nintendo at its own game. Jokes Reggie. So I want to get into the article here. It says when Astrobot launched in September of 2024 for the PS5, many lauded that and compared it favorably to some of Nintendo's very best 3D platformers. During the recent New York Game Awards 2025 event, ex-president of Nintendo of America offered his opinion on the game after it won the award for Best Kids Game, jokingly stating, "I have to admit, Astrobot almost outdid Nintendo at its own game." It's it's pretty it's a pretty throwaway comment, all things considered, but it tickled us nonetheless. We particularly quite like the emphasis of the word almost. After all, we can't imagine Reggie, of all people, readily stating that a game from another platform could possibly outshine one of Nintendo's own efforts. All eyes will no doubt be on Nintendo in the coming months as we approach the release of the recently announced Switch 2 hardware. It's been a long time since Mario Odyssey launched on the Switch back in October 2017. So many, including us, the crew at Nintendo Life, will be wondering exactly what Nintendo has up its sleeve for the next 3D mainline entry. Astrobot also went on to win the prestigious Game of the Year award during the recent event in New York, adding yet another gong to Team Asobi's growing list of accolades. So, what's interesting is I was talking to my girlfriend's son this morning. He's 10. He's been playing my copy of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, and he loves Astrobot. Played it at his dad's, played all the way through it, had a great time with it. And I was telling him how if Donkey Kong falls asleep in the newest game, he pulls out a Switch and starts gaming. Um, like doesn't I'm sorry. I was explaining to him how like Mario would fall asleep in older games. If you stop playing and just let Donkey Kong sit, he starts playing a Switch. And it used to be a 3DS and a DS. And he was telling me, "Oh, Astrobot does the same thing. He'll pull out a game of some kind and start playing." So I don't know if Astrobot pulls out a PSP or a Vita or a PlayStation Portal. I'm not sure, but just really funny to see a lot of the similarities, not just in the gameplay and the way Astrobot plays, but also um, in just some of the other subtle nods and nuances that the game seems to have towards Nintendo games. So um, funny to hear Reggie talking about Astrobot, and I do view Astrobot as a really really good thing. We talked about it a bit yesterday about with Banjo Kazooie, but like any kind of game that can start to rival Nintendo games is a good thing as far as the spirit of competition goes, in my mind, right? Like it's going to be awfully hard to dethrone Nintendo when it comes to 3D platformers and 2D platformers and that kind of stuff. But when you see companies really putting in the extra effort, like Sony here with Astrobot, and doing something that really got the attention of the industry as a whole for the game to win Game of the Year against, some big titles, it says something. It says something. The more there is healthy competition within the gaming space, the better it is for all of us. There's no question in my mind there. So, uh hopefully, again, like mentioned yesterday, Banjo gets into the 3D platforming game with Xbox. We got Astrobot here. I would love to see Mario, Astrobot, and Banjo all going head to head, um, fighting for the throne of top 3D platformer. I think I think it's just great to have that competition going on. So, next up, the Switch 2's magnetic Joy-Con connection was originally an idea for Switch. Now, if you start learning about the history of Nintendo, you will know that they have ideas for things that they can't always implement on their current system, but they won't always let those ideas go. And so this is one of those instances here where, just looking at the article, it says Nintendo Switch 2 has finally been revealed, and it seems that some of the features of this successor system have been years in the making. One of these happens to be the magnetic connection for the Joy-Con controller, which replaces the physical rail system on the original system. Former Nintendo Minute hosts Kit and Krista have highlighted an interview they did with Nintendo's Yoshiaki Kozumi back in 2017, who revealed then and there Nintendo was already considering magnets to connect the Joy-Con on the original Switch hardware. Unfortunately, at the time, there were some design problems, and so the team opted with mechanical rails. And here's a quote here. And I watched this video yesterday from Kit and Krista, so it was kind of fun just to see something like this kind of get dug up, right? And so here's Yoshakai talking about the Joy-Con rail system. It says, "We tried a lot of different things in terms of connecting the Joy-Con to the console, and one that I was particularly excited about at the time was using magnets, which was like snap it right to the console. But as you would play, sometimes it would just fall into your lap. But because we still wanted to have something that was sturdy enough for you to hold onto the console, but also gave you that kind of satisfying snap that the magnets did, that's when we came up with the mechanical rails that gave you a click. And that is, that's what we ended up with. But now with the Switch 2, we are getting to see these magnets in action. And my hope and my gut feeling is that that wobbliness that happens with the Joy-Con on the current Switch, it might finally be fixed. Because I don't know about you guys, but when you first put new fresh Joy-Cons on, everything feels so tight and it feels really good, and then it doesn't take much time at all, and all of a sudden they're loose, and sometimes they end up slipping out of the rails. So be it will be great to have this new these new magnets, and hopefully just a very strong connection. So we don't have to, and obviously the way these are designed, they're not going to be sliding up or down. You'd have to pull them out of the rail system that they have designed for these new Joy-Cons. So just really cool to kind of look back, see this older video, you know, some 7, 8 years ago with Kit and Krista talking to Kozumi about the Joy-Con and how they wanted to go with magnets. And I can give you guys a couple, like just one example off the top of my head. Yoshi in Super Mario World. Now, granted, this was in the software, not necessarily like the hardware, but they wanted to be able to have Shigeru Miyamoto wanted Yoshi to be in Super Mario Brothers 3 as as the dinosaur that you could ride around on and be able to use them like you did in Super Mario World. But the system couldn't handle it. The NES was just not strong enough to be able to add that extra character essentially to the screen and have everything run correctly. So they had to scrap it, but the idea didn't go away. And then Yoshi showed up in Super Mario World, which is again a very common thing for Nintendo to do. So the last thing we're going to look at here, and this is kind of cool because it has a lot of people speculating on a potential release date for Switch 2. So grain of salt with this, of course, but like I saw a few different people mentioning that this leak could potentially point to the release date of Switch 2, and one of the big reasons is that it falls on a Thursday, I believe, from the tweets I saw. So this is Nintendo Life, and it says, "Oops, the next Doom game's release date appears to have been leaked." And this is ahead of Xbox's developer direct that is happening on the 23rd. So I'm gonna play the video since we can kind of watch together. And and then let's see, we can make this full screen as well and watch together here. So, oh, it's not gonna cooperate with me, I don't think. Unfortunately. Well, I still have I have ways. I have my ways. Here we go. Let's see if this will work. No, it's just like it's not gonna cooperate while we're doing it live, so that's fine. We don't get to see the full screen, unfortunately, but we can still, take a look at what's going on with Doom here, and this game looks incredible. It looks incredible. You're talking about giving Doomslayer, like, Captain America's, uh Captain America's shield with blades running around this thing, and, you know, I'm kind of in shock of how amazing this game is, like, right now, if you're only listening to this after the fact, they're using a skull as ammo that's getting ground up and then shot at enemies, and he's throwing the shield, like I said, just like Captain America. You can also use it to deflect shots, which is really, really cool, and there is so much happening with this game. It looks like he's holding a gun right now that, like, it's, like, shooting spikes and, like, sticking enemies to the walls. What I absolutely loved about this trailer as we get further into it is right here, you are in a massive mech fighting these giant demons, and this thing, I mean, that is crazy. That is crazy. So I'm so excited about that. They also show you flying around on a dragon. Like, this is something I never expected to see, that we were gonna be taking Doom to the Dark Ages, and what an incredible job they are doing with this game so far. Now, let's get into the article here. So it says every Doom game has been released on the Switch following and following last year's confirmation of the new entry would be a multi-platform release. It seems that there's a real chance the next chapter could show up on Switch 2 at some point. With this in mind, it seems the official release date for Doom: The Dark Ages has now seemingly leaked, revealing it will launch on Xbox Series X and S in the middle of May, with other platforms likely to line up with this date. This information was accidentally shared by GameCult ahead of Xbox's developer direct this week. Again, no confirmation for Nintendo's new platform, at least yet. But this new Doom title will be arriving this year during the launch window of the Nintendo Switch successor. This new medieval inspired title in the hellish first person shooter series is a prequel entry to Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, where you'll experience the origin story of Doom Slayer's Rage. If you haven't played the existing games yet, they're both available on the Switch eShop and often on sale. I've seen Eternal for as inexpensive as like $7. So if you want to play it, just keep in mind graphically, if it's your only option to play Doom, I will still recommend it. I played all the way through Doom 2016 on the Switch. Graphics a little bit muddy from all the compression, but ultimately still a good time. And game was ultimately really smooth, and it's just that the resolution was, that was a little bit iffy, but it did run pretty smooth, and I was pretty impressed by it. I've since been playing Doom Eternal on my Series X. Game is gorgeous. If you like boomer shooters, don't miss out on these. But if we can see this game on, and I have a very I have a very I've got a gut feeling we're gonna get multiple release, um we're gonna hear about multiple releases on the Switch 2 at the upcoming Xbox Developer Direct. Like, I am I am fairly positive that we are going to see a number of games, and I think Doom Eternal. Now, will this be a launch game for Switch 2? Very possible. It's obviously in the launch window. Keep in mind the launch window for a console is 9 months. And so, is this how far along is this game, for the Switch 2? Is there how much work do they got to do to get it running on Switch 2? There's a few questions there, but I have a feeling when this game is shown off more at the developers direct at the end of the trailer or whatever, at the end of the showcase, we will see the Switch 2 logo saying that Doom Dark Ages will be coming to Switch 2. If if this means the release date for the Switch 2 is May 15th, middle of May, I am 100% down. I am down. That's that would be, and there's been a lot of buzz. A lot of buzz. I've seen a few other YouTubers covering this as well. Like there's been a lot of buzz about the potential of the Switch launching, or the Switch 2 launching sometime in May. Just based on like how much time is going to be taking place between the April Direct and the middle of May, that the number of days, I believe it was something similar with the Switch 1 from the main direct to the number of days until the system launched. And so, fingers crossed that we would see the Switch 2 in May and not June, just so that we can start playing Mario Kart earlier, right? Like that's my main motive here. There's no question. So, that being said, we're going to get into the topic of, did the Switch is Switch 2 doing enough? Is it innovating enough? And this question comes from Eurogamer, and Eurogamer put out an article saying, they expected more from Nintendo, and they thought that Nintendo was going to, do do more innovating, because they're the company that does innovate so often. And so if you've got any thoughts on this, live in the chat, please put your thoughts, if you think Nintendo has innovated enough with Switch 2. I'm going to go into my reasons on why I believe it has, and why I think they are honestly, the innovations that they are taking from the leaks that we have anyway, are exactly what we want for this generation. There may not be like the cheesy gimmicks that we're used to, and I'm perfectly okay with that. As somebody who was not completely sold on the Wii and all the motion controls, and who owned the Wii U and played on the gamepad but didn't necessarily love it, I love where Nintendo is right now with the gimmick being the hybrid system. Like I'm perfectly okay with that. And so, again, if you're in the chat, you got any thoughts on this, please feel free to post those. I will put them up on the screen. And DLSS, okay, that's where I want to start. One of the biggest fumbles in the recent generation of gaming is the fact that a lot of us bought Series X, PS5, and then we watched the majority of those games still come out on Xbox One and PS4. And that, honestly, when you spend the money on a new system, you want to see that system like at its fullest potential. But because of install base, and because of chip shortage, and because of uh, just the way the world was at that time, and these systems were not readily available for quite some time, uh, that that in and of itself makes made for just not a great generation. There are very few PS5 exclusive games that showcase the power of that system. There are some there. I want to say the number might be 11. I could be mistaken. That's just off the top of my head, and honestly, it's probably potentially less for the Xbox Series X and S. And even that was kind of a weird choice, because we've heard developers complain about how the S has kind of held things back, and so my biggest takeaway, and again, this is purely from leaks, because we don't have the official specs and all that stuff from Nintendo just yet. But if DLSS is a real thing, and we can have games that are from this current generation playing on a tablet, thanks to the technology that is in this thing, not to mention just what Nintendo will be able to do with their first party games, I really think that this is going to be leaps and bounds above. I'm at I'm of the mind that we will see, and I think I've mentioned it either here or on stream before, that we will see such a huge jump from Switch to Switch 2, that it will be similar to what we saw with the NES to the Super Nintendo. And what's kind of interesting is that younger generations have never really got to experience that, like, that crazy shift, because we went from like a handful of colors to thousands of colors. And from games looking like, pretty decent, especially near the end of the life of the NES, to like the Super Nintendo, where it was like the arcade is now in our living rooms. And this was unheard of at the time. And obviously, I'm not saying that the Switch 2 is graphically going to just like completely blow us away as far as like that change from NES to Super Nintendo. But when you can take a game like Doom: The Dark Ages that will potentially run on Switch 2 and look similar to how it would on a PS4 or PS4 Pro or the Xbox Series S in the palm of our hands, that's that's huge. That is huge. And I think what Nintendo is doing by utilizing the DLSS and having that be able to, take these compressed games and then through machine learning and AI make them something that is that looks as good as or close to as good as modern consoles. I think we're just going to kind of be blown away at how much power is literally in the palm of our hands. And then pending the dock also kind of boosting things and making things even better, that that even adds a whole nother element to it. So I think we're going to be in good shape. Casey asks here, do you think they'll be doing any trade-in promos like they did with the OLED? And so, from my understanding, a lot of that is probably retailer side. On the retail side of things, I don't know that Nintendo does a whole lot of that. I'd have to look into it and research it, but I would assume, especially like pending GameStop doesn't go completely out of business, they will have some deals out there where you could trade in your existing Switch and get X amount of dollars off on Switch 2. The thing that I would say, just make sure that your Nintendo Switch Online is good to go. Make sure all of your cloud data is backed up. And if you have games like Animal Crossing that you want to keep, make sure you use the transfer tool so that that game's not just stuck in limbo. So I believe you can kind of transfer it off and then transfer it back on, but I'm not even it's been too long since I've done that, so I don't completely remember. And so in some cases you may have to have your Switch to be able to transfer data to the Switch too. So just make sure that if you are trading in, you're not going to regret missing out on any of the game saves that aren't able to be saved to cloud. Just the one thing to keep in mind. So I see a handful of people are jumping in here a little bit late. We're talking about, is Nintendo doing enough with the Switch 2? Is it enough innovation? Right? Or is there something else that you want to see? So we've already talked about how graphically it's going to be a powerhouse. We talked about it on yesterday's show, how some developers have looked at it and said, like, yo, this thing is actually going to be kind of crazy. The mouse feature, which we also kind of touched on a little bit yesterday, talking about, I think I talked about it on Ladies' Night, like being able to use that mouse in games like Animal Crossing for doing custom designs or Mario Maker for making levels. Like, and that's just like for user generated content and um, being able to create within games, the mouse is going to make that so much easier, like so much easier and so much more fun. But then you get into, well, like looking at games like we looked at earlier today, like Doom: The Dark Ages. Are we going to be playing with like mouse and Joy-Con? Being able to do Splatoon with a mouse, is it going to, to give even more accuracy when it comes to shooters? And then you've also got games like Fire Emblem and Advance Wars, that kind of stuff. Like those games will probably play better with a with a mouse than they do with a controller. And so and then on top of that, we're not even scratching the surface of what Nintendo is probably doing when it comes to innovating with this control style and just some of the novelty of it, and then potentially also selling us like just a mouse. I could see special edition mice, if you will, for Splatoon, Mario Maker, Animal Crossing. I mean, honestly, even playing Animal Crossing with a mouse where you're kind of just pointing and clicking and probably makes the game a little bit easier when you're designing and moving furniture. So whether you're, designing your custom, designing your custom designs, or decorating, moving furniture around, all that kind of stuff, using a mouse, like, I see plenty of innovation there. So I mean, obviously, we're talking about Eurogamer, so their clickbait title of, going, being contrarian, if you will, and saying they don't think Nintendo is innovating enough. I think at some point some of these things are just for clicks. Even when they tweeted that out, I quote tweeted and said, "This isn't the '90s anymore. Like, we can't expect." It would be silly for Nintendo to come off of the massive success of the Switch One and then be like, "Hey, we're going to do something completely different out of left field." No, it's like starting over again. Like, why not just iterate on the current system? Give the fan base that uh, is already used to the way things are working and the way things are going, a better version of what it already is. It just seems like a no-brainer. And also, like, short of like the PS5 Pro now, which I think is a huge leap forward, but it's also a costly leap forward. I think Nintendo's kind of leading the way with the way, uh, not only with how to make games look great on a lesser system, but I also think they're gonna show us exactly how to move from one console to the other. And I my gut feeling is we're gonna have this 2-year block at least, because they did say they wanted to support Switch One for 10 years. That would be 2 more years, so they can support it with remakes, remasters, or any games that were supposed to be coming out on this system. We have a February rumored direct that would talk about that, and I think that, your sequels and your mainline games need to be on Switch 2 to move systems and keep pushing systems, but you have a massive install base that will still probably buy games on their OG Switch, and then the new Switch can potentially make them look better also. So they kinda have a win-win here of, like, just be very clear, these are the games that are still coming to Switch 1, but anything that is new, outside of maybe a small window at the beginning of launch where they have a few games kinda cross over, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but they're gonna have to be pretty strategic with those, I would say. And so that's just kind of, I think maybe they didn't innovate enough for some people, but I think they are gonna show us the correct way to move to a new console generation without, punishing early adopters, and then without, without making, everybody that has a current Switch just, like, sit in left field with nothing, you know? So, we got um, a few people jumping in here. So, Casey says, "I hope they change the way online play works with voice chat. The app is not good." You are 100% correct, Casey. I agree. I agree with you. Like, now granted, I mostly use Discord when I do, voice chat. It's just become, second nature, but not everybody has a setup, you know? And, currently, I've been using these, Corsair, Virtuoso Max. I've been talking about these on pretty much every podcast. These are these are high-end gaming headphones. Shout out to Corsair for sending these to me, but they have become my go-to with Switch. Like, I love these things, and they take a mic. So I can just pop a mic in these things, and if I'm wanting to do, like, just a casual game of Mario Party or something, um, or maybe some Mario Kart or whatever, and I'm not sitting at my setup, to be able to have native chat, I think is a must. I think is a must, and I think because you've got games like Call of Duty, um, and more mainline third-party games making their way to the Switch, voice chat just seems like something that should happen. And I think they're gonna implement great parental controls. So if you've got younger kids, like, I've been uh very proactive in making sure that, like, my girlfriend's son, when he's playing Fortnite, he's not, like, chatting with random strangers and stuff like that, that he's got everything muted, and so And even that is not the best parental controls. I think Nintendo will step it up even further than that when it comes to voice chat. So I think they'll keep people safe, but also allow those of us that are just used to voice chat to be able to um, finally just have normal like party chats and stuff. So um, let's see. Nady Nay, did I miss the Just Dance in SpongeBob pajamas? So I'm currently wearing my Mario pajama pants, not SpongeBob. So so you didn't miss anything. You didn't miss anything. You're good to go there. You're good to go. Nate also says Metroid Prime 4 is definitely a promise game on Switch. Yeah, and I do think that we're gonna see any of these games that are coming to the OG Switch are going to see a we're gonna see them get their upres on Switch too. Like I don't think it's just gonna be like playing the same game when you pop it into your Switch too. I think we're gonna see a lot of frame rate boosts. I think we're gonna see the resolutions get better, and I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna keep Switch games feeling fresh for a minute, which I think is great. I think I think is good. So we got Mustaches and Coffee podcast showed up. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here. Casey says, I'm curious to the strength of the new kickstand compared to the OLED one. I am pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that it'll be pretty beefy because they already had issues on the very first Switch with the kickstand not being strong enough. Two, I think I think the reason that kickstand goes so far back and then has the extra support for the legs, I have a feeling they're gonna be releasing a handful of tabletop style games where we use the mouse feature, and they wanted to make sure that there was enough support for that Switch to lean almost flat on the table, but still have a little bit of an angle to it, and so I would assume that it's going to be pretty strong, and that maybe even somewhat, possibly reinforced. So we'll just have to we'll just have to wait and see. So Mustache and Coffee says, I love these live shorts. Excitement for Switch 2 as an all-time high for us. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the question the topic that we're on right now is, do you guys think Nintendo has innovated enough with what they've shown with Switch 2? Now, again, we've seen very little, but we're seeing articles pop up talking about like, oh, they didn't innovate enough. They're the company that's all about innovation is just taking the easy path and the safe road, which again makes perfect sense to me. I think that's the direction they should go. Like, I love my Switch. If they came out and said we're not doing a hybrid system, I would honestly be a little bit disappointed. Like, I'm I hope Nintendo sticks with this format for years to come, and if they wanna do something different, great, but don't take the Switch away. Keep the Switch going, you know? Keep keep the Switch going. Nady Nay says, to me, it's not even worth the risk. The Switch is such a success, and more power and FPS is all I aim for." Yeah. Yeah, and that's I mean, again, that's kinda what I'm saying as well. Like, it it if we get to where we can play games like Elden Ring, Call of Duty, Madden, the show, MLB The Show starts to look better, I'm gonna have a hard time even turning on my Xbox, honestly. We get Halo, which is almost confirmed at this point, the Master Chief Collection coming to Switch. One, that's crazy. Two, Smash Bros better get Master Chief in Smash. That's all I'm gonna say. We better get Chief in Smash. And you know what? I'm okay with him being a swordie. Give him an energy sword. That's just fine. That's just fine with me. Let's see here. Dylan says, I'm curious to see what it all offers. I'm not too mad at its overall look. Yeah, and there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions out there still. Like, we have a lot of information from the leaks, and a lot of the leaks have come true. but we don't have everything officially announced yet. So that still leaves some things up in the air for us. So we'll just but that's also some of the excitement that hopefully there is something that we haven't learned about through all the rumors and leaks, and that it it w- I think the mouse features, and especially like what they're going to do with these features, I think there's going to be some great surprises there. Um, looking for at mustaches and coffee podcast. It says, um, uh, I don't think they've done their Nintendo usual innovation, but it's hard to top the Switch. Um, so far, everything plays as well as advertised, and I'll be over the moon. Yeah, and that's okay. That is honestly probably my biggest my main point in all of this is Nintendo, in my mind, wins with this leap in generation by allowing just by having games that run and look amazing on their current console, and that they're not gonna be hindered by the Switch 1. There has to be that different, they have to differentiate between the 2 systems and not just be like, Mario Kart's coming to both systems, and the next 3D Mario is coming to both systems, and there's no reason to purchase the Switch 2 if they do that. And so and then to not only that, but to add a fresh coating of paint to all of our existing Switch games, yo, that's I'm I'm more than okay with that. I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. You can tell this was a Wii U or a Wii game and a 3DS game, and I am so ready to, like, jump back into, Torna and Xenoblade 3 and even see what Xenoblade X is gonna look like because it's looking gorgeous from what I've seen. And so, I mean, I'm totally fine playing games that don't have, like, the bleeding edge graphics, but I'm also very excited as a longtime Nintendo fan to finally see some of these bleeding edge graphics that we have not seen since the GameCube. Like, the GameCube showed us what, was the real like, the last system that really, like, kinda blew us away, right? The Wii U was great, nobody played it. It also was, like, underpowered even when it came out. The GameCube was the last time that Nintendo was really trying to compete with Xbox and PlayStation, and I'm not saying that they need to. I'm just saying that as a longtime fan, I'm ready to, be blown away by some of the graphics, and to just not have to go to my Xbox to see the true next gen. Don't get me wrong. I know that we're not getting, you know, PS5 Pro style graphics on this thing, but for the 8-inch screen in handheld, I think we're all gonna be pleasantly surprised and pretty stoked about it. So, um, Casey says, "I'm curious to see if the new size of the Joy-Cons will be more comfortable in the hand." I would assume based on just the size, they should be like, a little bit more comfortable from what we've heard from leaks and stuff, the weight is very similar. So, but I mean, I'll be completely honest with you guys. I'm using that GameSir controller. It feels like an Xbox controller split in half and then holds the screen in place. I love it. I don't know if it's going to work with Switch 2. I've mentioned that, so I'm kind of telling people like you can buy it on my TikTok shop, but I'm only telling people like make sure you plan on using it for Switch 1 because I don't know if it's going to be compatible because of those little tabs that the magnetic Joy-Cons connect to. So I don't want to mislead anybody and say, "Oh, it's gonna be great for Switch 2." If it does work, it's gonna be great. It's what I will use because personally, I don't like the short throw of the stick on the Joy-Con. I just don't feel like I still feel like I'm kinda playing handheld, if you will. And so what I've been using, it literally feels like an Xbox controller. And so I've been loving that. I do hope that the Joy-Cons are more comfortable. I do like because I will probably have to use the Joy-Con for a while until something else comes out. And of course, there are different grips and things you can get that kinda help as well. But me personally, I've been enjoying handheld so much more because of this GameSir controller that I've been using, and it's honestly been fantastic. So, Nady Nay says, all Nintendo needs to do is release software that they have a leg up. This gen has been weak. Sony has canceled more games than announced, and Xbox is in flash sale mode. And that is true. That is true. It's I honestly feel for the Xbox fan base and even the PlayStation fan base. Like the, the PlayStation fan base was really banking on third party like Call of Duty and stuff like that, and they still got it, and it's still running great, but it's essentially an Xbox game. And Xbox was anticipating, like the Xbox community was anticipating, like, yo, we're finally going to be, back in the fight with this thing. And then everybody, like all the leadership at Microsoft was like, yo, we need to make money, put these games everywhere. Like, we're not going to try to like push our hardware any longer. And so it's just been such a strange time. I mean, to the point, like, I've had Game Pass forever, and I don't even I'm like, I don't know that I need this anymore. Like, I'm when I fire up my Xbox, I'm playing Call of Duty, Fortnite, or Halo Infinite, and I own Call of Duty, so I don't really utilize Game Pass like I should, because the majority of my gaming that I'm doing is on Switch anyway. And so it's 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 kind of like one of those things, like, I don't know that I just need to keep paying this giant corporation for something I'm not using. Dylan asks, "What's your biggest want for Switch 2 main title release game?" I mean, my biggest want is always gonna be Mario Kart, right? Which we've already seen. So, I'm gonna go outside of that because, I mean, I love Mario Kart, but I'm very much ready for a 3D Mario, and I really want more information on Metroid Prime 4. So a 3D Mario is gonna be huge. I don't know. I'm torn on what direction they go. I also I also would be very excited if they announced Mario Maker 3. I don't know if they continue doing the Mario Maker games or not. I feel like they've sold well, but they have to support them in order to like keep that community alive and keep people, the better they support their games, and the more creators are streaming them, that's going to get more people to buy in the like the long term. But then also like utilizing sales more, and doing like signature, Nintendo signature series and player's choice, whatever that may be. Like, there's a lot they can do to continue the long tail of these games. So I don't know what happens, but dream games for me: 3D Mario, Mario Kart, Metroid Prime 4, and I mean, absolute like dream game, but I don't think it's happening until like we get a little further into the Switch 2's life cycle. But Animal Crossing, like, I am so ready for Animal Crossing, and being able to just have the whole community so hyped, and like we talked about it on the ladies night show that we did last night, which they're only available on YouTube now. And but like, to have an Animal Crossing, like, we in yesterday's show we talked about how powerful the Switch 2 is going to be based on that developer, just to see what the possibilities are going to be with AC. I'm so ready for that. So it's like, I feel like in so many ways the Switch laid such amazing foundations for so many games. And I think Nintendo was having to get out of the old way of thinking of like, hey, we can release a game or release a DLC and we're good to go. We live in a time now where games are living and they keep going, and Nintendo has certain franchises that needs to happen with. Splatoon, Mario Kart, Mario Maker, Animal Crossing are the first ones that just come to the top of my mind. I think they could even do it with like Metroid, where they continue to feed Samus like bounties, that she's got to go out and do different bounties, and you could just keep Metroid alive that way as well. I don't know if they will do that, but I I really, really hope that they do treat some of their games more as a service. I'm not talking about going full games as a service, but just keep the community alive. And we will spend money on the right content for these games. And I think Nintendo is seeing the power they have in this in their IP, and I just want them to do it correctly. I don't want the consumer to feel like they're nothing more than a wallet to Nintendo, and I want the content to be something that we are blown away by. And I feel like Nintendo has done this. I talked about it in my Mario Kart video. Mario Party Jamboree, so packed full of content that if they announce DLC, I would buy it right now because it was like, yeah, to have more of what's already so amazing with this current game, I would gladly add more to it. Gladly add more to it. And I haven't even scratched the surface with everything you can do as far as single player stuff in Mario Party Jamboree, decorating my plaza, unlocking even everything. Like I haven't even unlocked all the boards yet, but I love the game. We've been doing challenges on stream trying to get 5 stars on Bowser Kaboom Squad. So much fun. So much fun. Everybody's getting hyped. It is it is such a great formula for Nintendo's games going forward, where they just jam pack so much content. They've got, up to 20 players can play with randos, up to 8 players, which is great. They just did so many things right. So many things right. And I think Super Mario Party Jamboree is a sign of things to come when it comes to Nintendo. Dylan Brown says, saw a YouTube short from an insider that allegedly there's a file called SPR or SP Red in the works for Switch 2. People think it's the next Super Mario 40th anniversary game. Okay, that's 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 something. I mean, everything's so early on to be like, where are they data mining this from? I do think there's going to be plenty of Mario, like there's going to be some kind of Mario games coming to Switch One for the anniversary. Like there's no question there. Something Mario is going to be coming to the OG Switch. And we've had somebody talk about I think we talked about it yesterday that there was an insider that talked about how there's going to be one more big mainline game that gets released, that's a little more niche. Obviously, that wouldn't be Mario, but I have a hard time believing the 40th anniversary of Mario and everything's only going to be on Switch 2, and there's only I say only like, but when it comes to console sales, only 20 million will be available in the first fiscal year. Can't imagine that being the case. Like we're probably going to get like Mario 40, which was like Mario 35, maybe another like All Stars pack. I'm not sure. They're probably going to. I don't know what else. We're missing a few games, a few Mario games on Nintendo Switch Online. Obviously, a Galaxy 2. Now maybe Galaxy 2 gets a complete remake like Metroid Prime did. Yo, I would be so stoked on that. Like not that I just want more remakes, but I don't want to see them that would be fine with me to see a remake of 2 because it's obvious it's my favorite Super Mario Galaxy, but then to still have the mainline 3D Mario coming out on Switch 2, yeah, of course, like, would be totally stoked. So, Dylan says, "We're seeing a true return to Nintendo taking longer with content that's really worthwhile, and it's great to see." Yeah, they're not afraid to delay things. They told the team that did Wonder, "Take as long as you need. There is no deadline on this." And we ended up with an amazing game, albeit probably too short because of how much we all loved it and didn't want to put it down. It was incredible. It was incredible. And that shows when there's not that like that that crunch, right? And you can see that things were getting rushed and I mean, I remember back in the day when the Master Chief Collection first came out, it was years before that game finally ran correctly on the Xbox One. Like that was not it. It was not a good showing. Not a good showing whatsoever. And so what I did find interesting, and this is a little bit nerdy, there was no update for Donkey Kong Country HD Returns. It just played. You popped in the cart and it just played. No day one patch. It did not need it. it just played, which I was honestly kind of surprised with because a lot of times those like the games go gold and then developers keep going. And then the moment we start playing, they send that update out for everything that they've had to fix up until that point. Now I have seen some videos where I'm like, I think this game might need a patch. Like there's some hitbox issues and stuff. Nothing's like major, but still something there. So um but just kind of shocked to see there was no day one patch right there. So, well, before we wrap up, I want to let you guys know that if you're watching this video after the fact on YouTube, if you got any topic ideas, make sure to leave them in the comments. You can also find me on Discord in the Nintendo section of Discord and leave any topics that you want us to cover for these shows because we're going to do news and then we're going to do topics. And so again, and the more people we get here live, the more fun this is going to be. It's just going to be our daily little, probably up to an hour. These seem to be going about an hour. We'll have like these hour-long parties in the middle of the day, and and I'm honestly loving it, and I appreciate you guys so much for showing up live. If you're listening after the fact or watching on YouTube, you guys are the best. They are available on Spotify if you need something to listen to while you're at the gym or whatever the case may be. And also make sure to go check out my recent YouTube video on Mario Kart 9 and what I think it's going to be in the different modes that are going to be available for it. I am going to throw the audio of that out on the podcast as well, just because that you don't need a ton of visuals with the way I talked about it. So, but we'll love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section of that as well. Again, appreciate everybody so much, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.